So standing on the shoulders of our ancestors who have gone before us is about following in the footsteps of those who led the way. And many of our ancestors are thought of as heroes because they created an opening through which the Great Spirit moved the inexhaustible energies of the cosmos into our present experience. So our ancestors keep alive the inspiration that supports the mind, body, spirit, emotion connection. And this in turn supports our reality. Whether their interests were religious, political, or personal, we seem to always remember the creative ones. They usually involve a dramatic death. And then they return as one who is reborn and now finds himself with creative power. One of the great examples, of course, being Jesus of Nazareth. When we emulate our ancestors and we follow along their universal adventures, we see the possibility of what can happen through us. And many times the inspiration comes through the fairy tales of our childhood, where the singleness of the human spirit seems to always rise. We find ourselves in alignment with something greater, which is why the mystery and the myth of our heroes survive even in today's tumultuous times. And Joseph Campbell, who wrote a book entitled Hero with a Thousand Faces, says that a hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and then a decisive victory is won. Then the hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. So the Shiro, go with me if you will, or the divine feminine creative force within each of us ventures forth from the world of that common day reality into a region of supernatural wonder, not unlike Wonder Woman. Am I dating myself, or do you remember Wonder Woman? Okay, there you go. Often that journey begins from a place of frustration. We might find ourselves unhappy with our present situation. Maybe we feel a sense of separation from the world. Or we might even believe that something has been taken from us. And this is the gestation of the nonconformist within each of us, that private yet secretly potent possibility of a dream, not unlike Beauty and the Beast, the romance of that story. So fairy tales and myths from every corner of the world speak for themselves if they are based on truth. And when they are, they set a precedent that each of us aspires to live by. How about the example of Superman, right? Flies off and comes back and saves the planet. So through the lives of our legendary heroes, we document the profoundest depth of our human character. We experience greater compassion and greater understanding, a unified feeling with the world around us. Not separation in the name of politics or religion, but a global vision of a world that works for everyone. An ultimate experience of the oneness, a greater conscious awareness of our connection to that oneness. And Joseph Campbell also says that the passage of the hero may be over ground initially, but fundamentally it is inward into depth, where obscure resistances are overcome and long-lost, forgotten powers are revived to be made available for the transfiguration of the world. So through the fire-breathing monsters of Greek mythology, transitions that underlie our conscious behaviors of pattern can be released. Through our imagination, The journey of all our heroes allows us to live our unconscious fears, desires, dreams, and hopes without harming anyone and without influencing anyone unless we choose to. So the patterns and the logic of our fairy tales correspond to our unrealized dreams. And they have returned dramatically to the forefront of modern consciousness. You may have observed a lot of darkness moving into the light right now. So the hero will protect us through the trials and terrors of our weird adventure. They point to the magic shining sword that slays the dragon. Not unlike when we experience a guru or someone who guides us along our journey. So our ancestors assist us when we face difficult thresholds of transformation. They demand a change in our conscious patterns, and they also influence our unconscious beliefs. And Joseph Campbell tells us that perhaps some of us have to go through dark and devious ways before we find the river of peace or the high road to the soul's direction. And last week at our annual meeting, Lynn talked about the history of our ancestors who were responsible for bringing Science of Mind to the Albuquerque area. And this morning I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the unsung heroes, and I've asked Reverend Jack to come up and join me. While he's making his way up to the stage, I'd like to talk about the journey of the hero or the shero, who always seems to involve separation from the world, penetration to some source of power, and then the life-enhancing return. It was. So it's about recognizing the shift that happens within us when we acknowledge where we came from, who we recognize as our hero or our shero, and how we stand and present ourselves to the world as a result of that. And I have one last quote from Joseph Campbell. The universal doctrine teaches that all the visible structures of the world, all things and beings, are the effects of a ubiquitous power out of which they rise, which supports and fills them during the period of their manifestation, and back into which they must ultimately dissolve. So that ubiquitous power, blah, 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 that's a mouthful, is known to the scientists as universal energy. The Sioux Indians call it Wakanda. The Hindus identify it as Hakati. The Christians worship it as God. We know it as a power for good that is greater than we are, that we can use to create an incredible experience. So I encourage you to stand as the hero or the shero that you are.